Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be talking about bad spells. Spells that simply don't deliver on the fantasy you're trying to accomplish, or that have such a niche use case that really taking them feels like a mistake for most adventurers. We're concentrating on first level spells, so we're talking about the beginning of the game. And today we're discussing the Paladin. Paladins Paladins have a reputation when it comes to their spell slots, and that is that most of the time, because they get their spells at level 2, they also get Divine Smite at level 2, where they can add extra damage to their weapon attacks. Most Paladins use their spell slots as smite slots, meaning that in reality, a Paladin, other than, a really, really good spell, isn't going to be using their spells anyway. So, when a Paladin chooses their spells, might be a little bit half-assed. They might not be paying that much attention, and they might grab one of these 5 spells I'm talking about today. The worst the 5 worst first level spells that Paladins could choose, in my opinion at least. But before we get to that list, I'd like to let you know that Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube. There's a join button just below the video. You click that. You get a little badge next to your name in the comments. But further, you also get early access to my videos. I upload videos every other day, and if you join the channel, you get a day's early access. I upload them a day before they go live to the public. So, if you'd like to see my videos a day early and earn my undying gratitude in the process, you can join Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you can't or don't want to support, don't worry. The videos are still coming at their regular intervals. Thank you for watching and for helping me grow here on YouTube. So, Paladin spells. Let's start with a uniquely Paladin spell, Compelled Duel. Compelled Duel actually does exactly what it says on the tin. You target a creature within 30 feet of you, they make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they are now compelled to fight you and only you. There are some uses for this. The creature has disadvantage on attacks against enemies other than you. If they want to move more than 30 feet away from you, they have to make another wisdom save. If you, as the Paladin, end your turn more than 30 feet away from the creature, the spell ends. If you attack any other creature, the spell ends. Or if you target another creature with a spell, the spell ends. If one of your allies attacks the target that you're dueling, the spell ends. That's the problem with Compelled Duel. In concept, it feels like a very tanky thing. I'm fighting you, and you're not going to fight anybody else. And that's fine, except that now none of your allies can fight it either. And of course, there's the saving throw and the range issue here. And if they succeed their wisdom save on their turn, they can, in fact, move more than 30 feet away. So if you can't catch them, the spell's going to end anyway. In general, Compelled Duel it's a cool concept executed incredibly poorly. It would be much better if it just caused the enemy as almost like a video game taunt, where you taunt them and then they have to attack you, they have disadvantage against other people, and that's your concentration. That would be fine for a tank build. It just has so many rules and caveats that it's really not worth doing. On the flip side, another spell on my worst 5 would be the spell Ceremony, something that's shared by their cleric brethren. The Ceremony spell, well, it's a weird one. There's a couple cool buffs you can get from it. Basically, you perform a ceremony that's appropriate to who you're performing it for. You can do funeral rites, coming-of-age ceremonies, dedication ceremonies, weddings. You can even create holy water with this spell. The problem is twofold. First of all, the spell Ceremony costs 25 gold worth of silver powder in order to cast. So you're not going to money farm with this because it costs the same amounts that holy water is worth. So you can't just cast it a bunch of times, make holy water, and sell it for a profit. As far as the other ceremonies, the dedication ceremony and the coming of age ceremony boost a character's abilities and saving throws for 24 hours. Funeral rites stop a creature from becoming undead. The wedding may be the most powerful when two willing creatures, or more, actually, the spell doesn't specify that you have to be just two creatures, get married. They gain a +2 bonus to their AC for the next 7 days, which is actually a really cool buff. The problem is that most of these ceremonies can only be done once. They can be done one time for an individual, and then as long as they're still alive, they can't benefit. So this spell has a one-time use case. You marry the entire party when you're about to go into a really difficult situation. You get a +2 to your AC for a week, and then it's gone forever. Which means that this spell, yeah, sure, you could use it once, and then you're never going to want to use it again. Maybe on occasion, but it's certainly not one of those that I would just carry around with me. It just doesn't make sense to do that. Let's get into something that's a little more practical in the day-to-day. Detect evil and good. The detect spells, whether it's detect magic, detect evil and good, detect poison, whatever, generally are spells that are considered helpful because they help you figure out information about stuff. Detect evil and good helps you determine if there are any of these types of creatures: aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiend, or undead. So that's 6 types of creatures that you can detect within 30 feet of you. My argument is this. If there's an aberration, an elemental, a fae, or an undead near you, you probably know it. Maybe not. There are some higher level ones like the fairy kings and queens or the vampires you may not know. Celestials and devils, or fiends, can disguise themselves sometimes, so you may not know. However, a lot of the time you will. It does have a short range, and one of the biggest issues I have with this spell is that the other detect spells, like detect magic, for example, can be cast as a ritual, meaning that you don't have to use a spell slot to use it. Detect evil and good doesn't have that ability. You have to use a spell slot in order to cast this spell, meaning that you'd probably be better off making an investigation, religion, or arcana check just to figure it out. Using a spell slot for this feels like such a stretch when other detect spells don't have to use them. And obviously, there's the argument that, how else are you going to know that NPC is a devil in disguise? Well, if you suspect that they are, there are other ways to figure that out rather than just using a spell. And yeah, if you're trying to hunt undead in the dark, sure, maybe this will help you spot them because you can detect their location, so it's not being blinded, except you still are because you're in the dark if you don't have dark vision. Anyway, there's a lot of potential use cases for the spell, but the simple fact of the matter is that most of the time you don't need this spell. It just isn't necessary, and paladins especially, because they already have a divine sense to do this exact same thing without a spell slot. So why would they take it? They don't need it. Another thing they don't need: Searing Smite. We were talking a minute ago about Divine Smite and how that adds extra damage to your attacks using your spell slots. Well, there's also Smite spells, where you cast them as a bonus action, concentrate on them, and then the next time you attack, you implement an effect. This one, Searing Smite, sets your enemies on fire. You attack, and if you hit with your attack, the creature makes a Constitution saving throw, a tricky saving throw to target. If they fail, they take 1d6 fire damage and are on fire. They can then repeat the saving throw at the end of their turns. If they succeed, the fire goes out. If they use their action, or someone else uses their action, or if they douse themselves in water, the fire goes out. If they fail their con save on their next turn, then they take another 1d6 damage. The damage is pretty paltry. Your average regular Divine Smite does 2d8 extra damage for the same number of spell slots. And the Constitution save's a tricky one to target, meaning that Searing Smite, while it sounds cool that it's just lasting damage after a single hit, in reality the damage is low, and the chances of it going out are high. And then you've used your slot for, an extra d6 of damage, maybe 2. A single Divine Smite could have accomplished that. So Searing Smite, not really worth using. And then finally, the spell Shield of Faith. This seems like a very cool Paladin spell. Paladin wearing divine golden plate armor, wearing a shield with their AC in the high levels. They cast Shield of Faith, a concentration spell, which increases their armor class by 2 for the duration. This sounds awesome, right? Buffing your AC even further, making it almost impossible for creatures to hit you. And in a vacuum, that's true. On its own, Shield of Faith actually is not a terrible spell. It's just the problem that it uses your concentration. You see, concentration's a valuable mechanic. Anytime you use a Smite spell, don't use Searing Smite, but there's other ones you could use, it takes your concentration to do so, meaning you would lose that +2 AC. And you also have the spell Bless, which is a powerful buff effect for you and your entire party, well, several of your party, which is much more valuable for using your concentration on. And not only this, but Paladins can use shields, like actual physical shields they can strap to their arm in order to gain a +2 AC anyway. Yeah, sure, you can't use big two-handed weapons if you do that, but if you're trying to play defensively, which is why you'd cast Shield of Faith, you could just pick up a regular shield and get the same effect without using a spell slot. And if you're trying to double up, at that point you're getting into absurd levels of armor class, especially at the low levels of play. This buff it's okay, but there's just better ways to accomplish it, and better things to use your concentration on. So I don't recommend it. I think Paladins, it's very, very bright looking, ooh, +2 to AC, that's huge. It's a trap. Grab a shield if you're playing defensively, and if you're not playing defensively, you should be focused on Bless anyway, because it boosts your attacks. So all in all, not the best spell. And this is my opinion on all of these spells. All of them have a use, maybe not Searing Smite. All of them have a use case, but most of the use cases are rare or can be better replicated with other stuff. So these are my worst 5 first level Paladin spells that I think all Paladins should avoid most of the time. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spell reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.